Welcome to today's podcast, the Smarter Cloud Talk podcast. My name is Madison. I'm the marketing exec here at the Business Software Center. And today we have May Turnbull again with us, and we're really excited to have her here. She's from EasySAM. May, feel free to introduce yourself because last time you were on, I kind of took the reins on that.
That's okay. Well, thanks for having me, Madison. I'm always flattered, and it's always, really great to have these kind of talks with you. So I am one of the directors at EasySAM, and that role sort of encompasses a senior consultancy position. So I continue as director to work and engage with partners and customers around licensing, helping them make sense of their compliance, but also in today's world of SaaS and cloud, help them optimize. And that sort of is the backing for the really great relationship we have with TBSC and the Smarter 365 product, which sort of it normalizes the wealth of data I think that people have to dredge through nowadays to try and understand where they are.
Yeah, I think with the whole, especially with the changes Microsoft is implementing, it's really good to have an expert that I can talk to. So in today's podcast, we're going to be reviewing the new commerce experience, May, and I would love to just review that blog post that I saw on your LinkedIn profile. You go to talk about the things behind behind the NCE, and you start with the CSP agreement. And to those listening, maybe they are familiar with the CSP, but can you go into a little bit of more detail about what CSP agreement is?
Yeah, for sure. And it's a good place to start because when I wrote that blog, I realized that there's a lot of customers out there that don't know what CSP is, and some of them are even on it. You may be transacting through a CSP agreement, but actually not be familiar with the acronym. So the CSP agreement, and I think I kind of maybe overdumbed it down for the blog, but that was intentional. Because the everyday Joe won't necessarily understand the complicated background and where the sort of the NCE is going in terms of its association with CSP. So CSP was originally brought on board by Microsoft, and it stands for Cloud Solution Provider. And this was a way to help partners manage the life cycle of their cloud offerings from beginning to end, have a better handle, better visibility, a better management capability of primarily the cloud solutions. And I think it's been a vision of Microsoft's for a long time, sort of even before CSP was dreamed up, was to replace all the conventional agreements that we've had, for many, many years. And then people will have heard of them, like the open agreements and the select, and then the select plus agreements, with an all-encompassing agreement. And I feel like that is the direction that they tried to take. Again, with CSP, they had tried before in the form of the MPSA, where they said, here's this new agreement. We're going to start slow, but eventually it's going to replace even the enterprise level agreements. But they failed. And CSP for me was a fresh start with new intentions. And the NCE is therefore the evolution of that CSP offering. So yeah, people might not be on it, but the crux of CSP is that they have this monthly flexibility. So you can say in January, I'd like 600 Microsoft 365 licenses. And then in February, the business had major changes. I'd only like 400 now. And that flexibility was unknown prior to the CSP agreement.
I think it's interesting that you were talking about the evolution and how we even got to the CSP to the point of where it is today. I think that the CSP model is really nice because of the flexibility features, but I guess it's come to extinction because of maybe the increase of working from home and remote work. But what do you think really drove the development of the new commerce experience? Do you think it was just like a natural progression of Microsoft, or do you think that maybe remote work really boosted this?
I'd probably say the opposite. So
Really? Okay.
what the CSP agreement didn't have was the ability to purchase more than just cloud. And under this vision that Microsoft probably has to evolve CSP to a point where it offers so much more than just cloud, you probably might even find the rename. There was a gap in terms of what CSP could offer. So there's lots of customers out there that aren't bothered by the CSP changes because it didn't have all the options that they needed. They stayed put in the enterprise agreements or the combination of agreements they had before because they asked, can I license this through CSP? And the answer at the beginning was they got a lot of no's. So I think the NCE was sort of like, okay, let's offer more. Let's offer more perhaps than just cloud. So let's give that a different name. But also let's start molding it to bring across enterprise agreement customers. So hence these new sort of commitment terms of 3 years, which sounds to us very much like the enterprise agreements. To be more attractive to the wider audience. That's what I think's happening.
Yeah, I can definitely see that because they're also starting to mix and match between those commitment terms. And I saw on your blog, it's also with Azure and 365 service bills are amalgamated. So it seems like you did go into a little bit of detail about what the new commerce experience is in your blog, and I think it's really good to look over it. But on this podcast, I kind of want to discuss what do you think the new commerce experience does better than the CSP model?
That's quite a contentious conversation because I think in my blog I put does the NCE do anything better? And I put in there it has better cancellation policies, and obviously one of the hot topics is actually the latter, the opposite. Because of this new cancellation restriction that's in place under NCE, people see that as a bad thing. That's not better at all. But what they aren't seeing is that the cancellation policies now will be more standardized. They'll be easier to manage, although it does appear that they might be a little bit more rigid. So in a nutshell, the NCE is great because it's simpler. It's saying, let's get your fingers out of all the pies. Let's put them all into one pie. Let's make it easier for not only the end user, but the partners certainly to manage customer expectation and keep customers happy. And billing comes into a big part of that, because that's something that I hear on a daily basis from partners. Billing issues with 365 and changes and adaptations that sometimes go wrong.
Yeah. I mean, it seems like, it's difficult to kind of plan ahead when you have things that might go wrong sometimes. But I mean, at the same time, change is also hard. So taking a customer who's on a CSP and maybe transforming them on the NCE might be difficult for them. So what options does a customer have currently being on a CSP?
So they don't have to move much at all. They can keep things exactly as they are. I mean, they have retained the option under NCE to have that monthly flexibility. The catch is they're saying that's going to be 20% more expensive now than any of the other models. So they are trying to make it attractive for people to sign up for longer commitment terms and reward that loyalty. So for people that are sort of stuck in their ways and the extra 20% brings value to the business, then 100% there's not much you need to do in terms of moving. I think the problem is at this stage, and what I'm hearing from all our partners, is that people are so unsure. There is this hybrid offering as well, so you can keep some of bits of the business flexible and you can commit for other solutions, and it's all about weighing up the costs. So partners at the moment, bless them, are bogged down with providing sort of multi-layer quotes to customers to try and help them long-term figure out what's the best route for them.
Yeah, I think that, each company needs to kind of sit down and make the best decision for their business. It's nice that they're having the option of having CSP continue on, but it's unfortunate that they have to do the 20% fee. So how long do the customers have to decide on whether they want to move forward with NCE?
So that they have quite a long transition period. The problem with NCE doesn't come in the amount of time that Microsoft has allowed for the absorption of this new agreement type. The problem came is that they didn't give enough warning, I feel. So partners, and you'll know this because TBSC would have been under the same NDA, kind of had their tongues, tied for a little bit by Microsoft in terms of sharing the news and giving customers time to decide. The problem is that anyone that is renewing their subscription this year, quite early in 2022, or they're looking at purchasing new subscriptions under this model, that means they need to decide like pronto. From the 1st of March, all new subscriptions need to be under the NCE platform. Those customers that are lucky enough to have quite a large overlap and they only see the end of their subscription terms or their commitment, shall I say, later on in the year, they have until the 1st of February. And I'm glad you mentioned that because obviously that's quite a hot topic for you and I, because we are here collectively to help end organizations and even partners plan. And one of the biggest steps there is to make sure, like we talked about before, that you get all the quotes and you do what's best for the business. But before you do that, you have to figure out what it is exactly you need. You and your TBSC and EasySAM spend so much time with customers looking at their 365 estate and perhaps some poorly managed processes and policies that cause a wealth of unused subscriptions to amalgamate. So obviously, customers don't want to carry that over. So that is what I would say is know when you need to decide by and do a clean out, guys. Do a clean out before you start crunching the figures.
I completely agree with that. It's amazing to me how many times we find that businesses don't really track or monitor their software usage. Maybe businesses in the manufacturing or engineering who already have systems in place might be better at doing this, but the other types of businesses really lack in tracking and monitoring their software. And so I think it's vital to benchmark and see where you're at, and as a business decide where you want to head towards the future. And I also agree it's important to know these dates and deadlines because it can kind of light the match for you and get you making these decisions as soon as possible so you can save money in the long run and you can optimize your usage at the same time. So yeah, it's been really great working with EasySAM to really bring our customers the best that we can in software asset management for sure. Did you have any other recommendations on what our customers need to be careful of when looking at the NCE?
Yes, so you'll notice in my blog, and I really want to shout this from the rooftop, and I'm glad to see that in so many other articles and blogs people are talking about this. So what's the major difference between the traditional CSP trials in particular and the new NCE ones is that they will auto-renew. And in our heads we think auto-renew, will it renew into another trial? No, it's trials will auto-renew into production services unless not your partner tells the system otherwise. And hopefully there's lots of really proactive partners there that will do the opposite and they will always untick that box unless told otherwise. But Microsoft's messaging, I think, is if you don't tell your partner to untick the auto-renew box when you ask for trials, you're going to end up paying production licenses for those trials. And on the one hand, it's really, really handy because I think probably a large percentage of people that do start with a trial will progress to a production license, but we don't want to be presumptuous. And we certainly don't want to be surprised with subscriptions that we didn't ask for, particularly if they're tied into a commitment term that's irreversible. So that's my main piece, I think, of what to be careful for when you do move across to NCE, along with obviously the fact, if you do go with a commitment term, you're not allowed to true down until a certain point. So you need to count those numbers and count them twice and count them again.
See, I just learned something new. I didn't even know about that true down thing. So, yeah, definitely important to see where you're at and make decisions off of where you're at and where you want to go. But, May, you're always just such a wealth of knowledge. And I want to thank you for joining the podcast. We're going to end it here because that was a lot of information, but this was a very useful session, and I look forward to doing more collabs with you in the future.
Oh, same here, Madison. Again, thanks for having me.
Oh, no worries. Thank you.